Chapter 2. Vincent slowly opened his eyes. A dizzying sensation mixed with high-pitched ringing drowned out the sound of muffled voices. The compact remains of a bullet rocked back and forth on the ground beneath his feet. Vincent shook his head. His balance and hearing were slightly impaired, but the effects were quick to wear off. He was alive, and no worse off than before.
It's impossible.
Badou dropped his handgun in disbelief.
How are you still alive?
He roared. Well, that was unexpected. Vincent raised his head, staring at the rusted metal ceiling. For a moment there, I think I was actually afraid to die. It's been a long time since I felt scared like that. He let out a bark of laughter, meeting Badou's eyes. Thanks for that. Vincent acknowledged, grinning gleefully. Badou stepped backward as the chains holding Vincent's arms suddenly tightened, snapping free from the beams above. He threw off the remaining shackles from around his feet and stretched out. Badou and his gang stood by, amazed at what they had just witnessed. A man was shot in the head without so much as a scratch, and now he was ready to attack. They raised their weapons, arms shaking with fear. One, braver than the rest, leapt forward and slammed a pipe against the back of Vincent's head. Vincent rocked forward and was caught off balance. Suddenly, he spun around, embedding his fist into the man's face and hurtling him into a far-off corner of the warehouse. The fight was on. Vincent was a whirlwind of punches, kicks, and headbutts, throwing bodies far and wide as Badou skulked away in the confusion. Oblivious to this fact, Vincent was positively joyous as he tore through the sea of violent thugs who had attempted to stab, shoot, and murder him mere moments earlier. This was it, the battle he was looking for when he was awoken from his slumber in the alley. Badou picked up his sword and an arm full of guns, and as the massacre continued, he stumbled upon the narrow alley between the warehouses. Suddenly, Vincent's leg penetrated the warehouse wall. "Wakey, wakey!" Vincent sneered from the other side. His fingers burst through the wall, and he peeled the metal open with ease. "I'm sorry, do you have somewhere else to be?" "Well, doesn't matter, because you can dream all you want in just a second," he said, parroting Badou's mockery from earlier. As the sun began to set, a bright orange hue lit the rusted and worn remains of the warehouse district. Shadows slowly crept over a horde of unconscious bodies strewn throughout the warehouse, with a mangled pile of firearms at its center. Vincent soared through the sky, jumping from building to building, carrying Badou's unconscious body. He soon arrived at the base of an impossibly high cliff and began leaping upwards, bouncing on several natural ledges up to the top. Vincent dropped Badou chest first onto the soil, his head hanging over the edge, and waited for him to regain consciousness. He stirred, and Vincent quickly put a foot on Badou's back, pinning his chest to the ground. Badou snapped awake in a panic, struggling with all his might. "Ain't it funny how our roles are suddenly reversed?" Vincent questioned as he hopped off Badou's back. Grabbing the thug by one ankle, he yanked Badou upwards, holding him upside down over the deadly drop. Rather than looking down upon the ghetto as he expected, Badou saw a vast, vacant field. This surprise was quickly replaced with terror again as he struggled against Vincent's vice-like grip. The sun had set now, and the sky was a beautiful twilight blue. "Did you know that I come up here and eat every afternoon at sunset?" Vincent asked. "And do you know what I think about while I'm here?" Badou continued to frail nervously, but kept quiet. "I think about leaving," Vincent continued, staring off into the distance. "You think you're slick because you got your hands on some guns? You know the rules, man. We bring in anything we can from the metropolis. Food, drink, gadgets, shit, even the garbage that the cloud people throw away. Anything and everything is traded in the ghettos, but not guns. Never guns." Vincent paused. A disappointed grimace crept across his face. It won't be long until the Metro Police find out that you brought them in here. They'll tear this place apart, looking for hidden weapons and other illegal goods, all because of you. Badou scoffed as Vincent pressed on. The Cloud people already think less of us because of the stigmata, he explained, caressing a mysterious marking that stained the skin around his throat. Nobody knows why we all have these marks, where they come from, or even what they do, if anything. All we know is that everyone in the ghettos is born with one, and they're the reason we were caged like animals for centuries. Even now, with the gates open, we aren't given proper jobs or housing, or other basic rights outside the ghetto. Shit! We aren't even treated like people! They call us dogs because it looks like we have collars around our necks. And so, we're looked down on like animals, feeding off their leftovers. The city barely lets our people work the shitty jobs they don't want to do themselves. Those bastards might ban us from working in the metropolis if you give them enough reason. You and I might not have jobs, man, but plenty of people down there live on the money they bring in from that place. Vincent pulled Badou's quivering body closer and shook him violently. I'm not gonna let you screw all that up for them, he snarled, extending his arm again as if to drop Badou headfirst over the cliff's edge. A wet patch formed in the crotch of Badou's pants and dribbled across his stomach. You pissed yourself, Vincent cackled. The mighty Badou actually pissed his pants! Thoroughly entertained, Vincent flung Badou backward into the dirt, holding his stomach as he bent over with laughter. Oh, my stomach.
What are you gonna do with me?
Badou uttered nervously, still focused on his whereabouts atop a giant cliff face.
Are you going to kill me up here?
No, but I probably should. Nothing I do ever seems to stop you, he sighed. The ghetto has it bad enough without you and those other pieces of shit running around, making it worse for everyone. Vincent couldn't hide the sadness in his voice. You know, I was gonna tie you up naked in the middle of town and let all the people you terrorized have their revenge. Who knows, maybe that would teach you some humility. But it would probably still end up the same way as it always does. You'd go back to committing crimes, and I'd go back to stopping you, blah, blah, blah. The pattern had remained the same for so many years. I don't understand why you keep hurting these people, and you don't understand why I keep saving them. Meanwhile, there's a whole town down there, caught in the middle of it all, just struggling to get by and make ends meet.
Why?
Badou asked curiously.
Why do you bother? No one wants your help.
Vincent ignored him. But as I was dragging your ass back into town, I looked up at the cliffs and got to thinking, maybe you've never seen things my way because you've never seen the ghetto the way only I can. I'm the only one who can get up here, so perhaps it might help you to see for yourself. Badou hesitated and got to his feet, moving to stand a few paces behind Vincent.
What does it look like there?
He asked with genuine curiosity. What do you see down there? Vincent pointed out over the false green scenery beneath them. Badou was usually quick to react. However, words had escaped him this time. He knew he was high above the ghettos, yet what he faced was impossibly beautiful greenery and rolling fields he had never seen in his life. He paused for a moment. We all know the wall around the ghetto, right? Vincent said, waiting for Badou's hesitant nod. And until a few hundred years ago, the gates were sealed shut, cornering us between the cliffs and the metropolis itself. Well, this is what our home looks like from the other side. Whether it was back before the gates opened up or sometime after, a fancy barrier was put in place to make our home look more appealing. Badou clenched his teeth in frustration.
I had no idea.
Vincent tilted his head back, staring into the clouds. Come on, man. You know how it is. The metropolis is for the rich, and the ghetto is for the poor. The Ryuuga metropolis, the city of opportunity. Can you believe that? Vincent scoffed. We see them sitting in their precious high-rise buildings, and we think they're looking down on us, right? When it's far worse. I guess nobody wants to live in the sky and see our filthy homes down below.
And you're okay with that?
Badou snapped back. Vincent shrugged.
Don't ignore me, Vincent. I'm asking if that shit bothers you.
Vincent had been looking far off into the distance, yet he could feel Badou's unflinching gaze. Fear and hatred seemed to go hand in hand most of the time, but Badou had never really feared Vincent, though he did appear to share the ghetto's hatred of him. Of course it bothers me, Vincent snapped. But that city could probably wipe out the ghetto entirely if it wanted to. Then where would we go? The nearest village is weeks away on foot, and nobody would have enough rations to make the trip. Even the supplies you and your goons stole would probably only get a handful of families out of here. And then what? Who's to say it's any safer out in the unknown? Honestly, we're lucky that those bastards are content with just hiding us behind a barrier.
What the hell is that supposed to mean?
Badou snarled.
Lucky. Lucky? You're saying that we should be thankful for those rich assholes?
Vincent remained unusually calm, despite Badou's sudden outburst. That's not what I'm saying. But it's not like anyone can change things.
You could,
Badou replied. Vincent was stunned. Finally, Badou had acknowledged him. He realized that this was also the most they had ever spoken. The irony was not lost on Vincent. He yearned for Badou's friendship and acceptance when he was younger, but as time passed, Badou's rebellious and violent tendencies only further divided them, and eventually, they became foes. The residents of the ghetto were either cruel or terrified of him. Children always liked Vincent, but they seemed to think of him as a sideshow attraction rather than a person. Vincent turned his gaze back over to the large city of ornate gold and bronze, its building reaching high into the clouds. Maybe I could change things. I mean, it's not like I haven't thought about it. Vincent had, in fact, contemplated this idea many times.
Then why don't you do it?
Badou asked sharply.
You have super strength. Your body is practically invincible, and you can jump all the way up here. You could probably take over that entire city if you wanted to.
Vincent laughed at Badou's flattery. Look, I know I'm the only one living in the ghettos with this power, but I don't think I'm the only one out there. I think there may be others like me. Badou looked up at Vincent, eyeing him skeptically. There used to be 2 other kids with strength like mine. Vincent winced a little inside. He didn't like to remember them, but he felt that explaining this to Badou was necessary. Badou never knew them or noticed the 3 young mischievous children that ran in the shadows of the ghetto when Vincent was young.
What happened to them?
Badou asked, his curiosity quelling his anger. Vincent's head dropped a little, and the shadows of his hat covered his eyes. One of them died, he said flatly. Shot in the head by a metro cop. Badou's face fell.
I'm sorry.
Ignoring Badou's apology, though it sounded genuine, Vincent continued. It's not like we were entirely innocent. The 3 of us were stealing food from the convenience stores in the metro after hours. Selena was kind of strong. Vincent smiled sadly, remembering her wild and fierce nature. I mean, she was stronger than most adults, even when she was 11. But Ren and I were different. We were both only 7, and we were way stronger. It was like night and day, Vincent reminisced, grinning slightly for a moment before his expression fell again. But one day, Ren went too far and started beating up people for cash. Selena refused to be a part of it, and Ren used to make me be the lookout. Vincent hesitated. This was personal. Too personal. He got a little carried away and found himself speaking too freely. He shook his head to reset his thoughts and carefully considered his next words.
Then what?
Badou asked impatiently. Ren got caught, Vincent slowly continued, as if omitting something from the story. He was beaten, badly, by a cop who seemed to have strength like ours. That's when he pulled out his gun and shot Ren in the head, point blank. Just like you did to me.
Look, man, I had no idea.
Vincent raised his hand, interrupting Badou's attempt to apologize, and changed the subject. Who knows? Maybe I could do something. But you know what stops me from leaving every single time I come up here? Vincent looked up and smiled thinly. Knowing the people down there aren't safe while people like you are wandering about. You weren't always like this, Badou. I mean, you always had a bad attitude, but you never really hurt people. Then you just snapped and created the Vipers to terrorize everyone. Badou's face fell, and what little color he had left fled his face. I mean, you guys did start doing a little better as a result, but that's around the same time I started beating your asses. So it's hard to say if it was worth it or not.
Yeah, you're right. I never used to be like this. Then, one day, I got sick of being a victim. So I started taking what I wanted instead of begging for it like a loser. Everyone down there is nothing more than a victim, and I refuse to be one of them.
But that's not their fault, Vincent scolded. We're all victims of circumstance, and attacking us won't make any real change.
Then what are we supposed to do?
Badou shouted, tears beginning to prick the corners of his eyes. He had felt the same for so long, but now Vincent could see the big lug was finally showing a softer side. Not sure, Vincent said quietly. Like I said, maybe I can make a difference. Maybe I can leave this place and get help, find out what's through that forest, and find a new place for us all. Vincent pointed his thumb backward towards a dense thicket of green bushland behind them.
If that's true, why haven't you done anything yet?
Badou scoffed. What? And leave this place unprotected? Who in the hell do you think will keep an eye on the ghettos to make sure people like you don't take advantage? Vincent sneered, baring his teeth. Badou turned away and looked down the jagged cliff face.
As I said, they don't want your help. They never did. Besides, what do you want me to do about it?
He asked petulantly. Despite being several years older, Badou suddenly looked ashamed. Being lectured as if he were a child only added to his humiliation. Vincent reached out to place a hand on his shoulder, shoving Badou slightly. It'd be nice if I could count on you to protect these people instead of making things worse. They have it hard enough. And you're strong. Vincent grinned mischievously. Granted, not as strong as me, but they need someone who can help them if I'm not around. It's like you said. They don't want my help.
Do you think you can actually change things from the outside?
Badou turned to face Vincent. All his swagger and petulant aggression were gone. Behind it, Vincent knew Badou could be a man that everyone in the ghetto could look up to, just as he did once when he was younger. Not sure, but we won't know until I try. I'm not even sure how long I'd be away. Besides, how can I trust you after all you've done? How do I know you won't go down there and destroy everything the second you know I'm gone? Vincent eyed Badou suspiciously.
I guess you don't. But seeing this makes me understand. Our home is just a joke to the metropolis.
Out of sight, out of mind, right? Vincent added.
Nothing's gonna change if we don't do things differently.
Badou agreed, his voice quivering.
They say we will be given a fair shot. But that's bullshit. Those people just see the stigmata and laugh at us. They ignore us and even beat us. We feed off their scraps, and now this. This view just proves how little they think of us.
Yeah, I get that, Vincent replied. Why do you think I brought you up here? Do you really think a few people with guns would change that much? They already think of us as animals. Sure, you might have wanted to rebel against that place, but do you really think acting like a monster is proving them wrong? Vincent's words cut Badou. Deep down, he knew he was right. Vincent stretched his arms towards the night sky, interlacing his fingers. Besides, I scrunched up all those guns like big balls of paper. He smiled broadly, proud of his handiwork. Badou laughed heartily and smiled at Vincent.
You really are a freak. You know that? I mean, who doesn't die from a gunshot to the head at point-blank range?
Vincent smiled for a split second before his memory of Rin quickly took him back. The visibility of the stars began to dim slightly as the metropolis came alive with a dazzling display of artificial light.
So, where do we go from here?
Badou asked.
You can't trust me, and you said you couldn't kill me.
Not sure, Vincent replied, exasperated. Could he really leave this place? The possibilities and the risks were endless and only added to his anxiety. It's not like I can run off and get help tomorrow, but I can't just sit around and do nothing either. Badou reached out and punched Vincent in the shoulder lightly.
I'll talk to the boys. We'll see if I can keep them from causing any more trouble.
Vincent was relieved to hear this finally. You'd better, or everyone's going to know the mighty Badou, head of the Vipers and the most frightening delinquent of the ghetto, peed himself. A red flush crept up Badou's neck to his face.
Hey!
He shouted, covering his pants with his hands. Don't worry. You behave, and nobody has to know, Vincent reassured. Badou would never live this down, and Vincent would never let him forget it. He gave Badou a wicked grin. Let's get out of here.
Wait a sec,
Badou interrupted.
Those two friends of yours.
Vincent stopped smiling instantly, twisting his head to avoid eye contact. Yeah? What of them? Badou fidgeted a little, struggling to voice the words he wanted to say.
I mean, if you survived a gunshot to the head, maybe your friend did too.
Vincent looked down at the dirt. Yeah, after your little attempt to murder me earlier, I started wondering about that too. But he died that day. I was there. Maybe it was the beating the officer gave him beforehand, or maybe it's because we were young, so our bodies hadn't developed enough or something. I don't know.
What about your other friend, the girl? What happened to her?
Vincent looked hard at Badou. Not sure. After Rin died, she left me and the ghetto behind. The finality in his voice stopped Badou from prying any further. Badou turned his back to Vincent, furiously rubbing the tears that had begun to sting his eyes. Careful not to let this mushy moment continue, Vincent quickly grabbed Badou by the back of the jacket and leapt off the cliff.
What are you doing, Vincent?
With his petrified screams echoing throughout the ghetto district below, Badou's body flapped helplessly in the wind, bringing a faint smile to Vincent's face. Maybe things really could change.